Oh, I want to verdance with somebody. Oh, I want to feel the Millennium Tree with somebody that loves me. Fresh and Buds are right now.
Fresh and
All right, folks, welcome back to yet another episode of Fresh and Buds. I'm your host, Tommy Fresh, and you are all my buds, and today it is episode 159. We are well into year 3, or actually, I guess year 4 of the podcast now, and, well, we got a designated hitter here, Chris Smithel of O3 Dropcast, formerly of Flesh and Common Blood, and you're here, buddy. You answered the call. I'm very grateful for you. You know, we had a last minute, unfortunate rescheduling, but Chris stepped in, and I'm so grateful for you. How you doing, buddy?
Good. You know, it's one of those things. I looked out the window, I saw like the bat symbol in the sky, and I was like, look, Tommy needs me. I'm coming. So, no, I appreciate you having me on. I mean, I know, we were talking a little bit before this too, that, when things have to change last minute, it is certainly a panic situation, but you handled it well. And, I'm always willing to come in, help out a bud. Anytime we talk flesh and blood, it's always easier to talk to somebody than just talking into the abyss of a computer screen. And so hopefully I'm here to, provide a couple smiles, a couple laughs, and, make your day, go slightly better.
Well, I'm very grateful for it. And, it is big bud energy, here all the time. So I'm super stoked. And the beautiful thing about it is, well, I love podcasting. I love chatting, the old gift of the gab, as they say. And you, since the last time you've been on the show, which has been a long time, now have a podcast. You're creating content, the O3 Dropcast. What is going on with that? Can you tell us about its inception and,
sure,
everything about it?
Yeah, so, again, appreciate the plug-in, giving us a little bit of time here to talk. But yeah, so it's been a little bit of a wild ride. One day we were kind of just at an armory, and at this point I didn't know Craig too well. I saw him at a couple armories, and he just mentioned like, "Hey, I want to do a podcast." And I was like, "Yeah, we've been talking about it forever, like doing a Linktree one or a Pittsburgh one, but we just haven't pulled the trigger." And he goes, "Well, I'm down." And then Bryce was sitting across the table, and he goes, "I've always wanted to do it too." So the three of us just got together, and literally within like a week, we were just like, here's what we want to do. It's the name and it's all this. And, if you ever get a chance to talk to Craig, he's just like a giant ball of energy that just kind of explodes when he gets focused on something. And so he did a great job at basically saying, here's what we should do. Here's the steps, and kind of put our thoughts kind of together. And it's kind of evolved into something I think all three of us never thought it was going to be. We said, hey, look, we just want to be three guys talking about the game, talking about what we love, and really trying to find a niche in the community that we feel like wasn't explored as well. So, nobody's coming to Chris Smith to sit there and say, what's the top deck that I should be playing at Pro Tour, Antarctica in 2025, or whatever the case may be, because I am not a pro player. But we said, what can we do to make the scene more welcoming and open towards what we call the legends of the armory, which is like just your everyday Joes, the people that are coming, playing for fun, having a good time. We talked a little bit about that. Craig started up a series called Budget or Busted, where we start building deck lists for under $100, then trying to say, okay, now here's how you can build and expand upon them. We do This Is Why I Drop, which is basically saying like, come watch normal people make gameplays. We'll talk about it like, on Talishar or whatever, and say, here's what I'm doing, here's what I'm thinking, here's why it's a mistake, here's why it's not, just to try to show like, you're not alone. If you're not a pro player, don't get frustrated by yourself. Just because you aren't a Brody Spurlock of the world doesn't mean that you shouldn't have a space in this game or a space to play and grow. And so we really try to highlight that for everybody. I like to kind of think of it as kind of like you were kind of setting the stones for that with like big butt energy and just bringing people on, talking about them. We're trying to do a similar feel to kind of what you've developed and you've grown in the community, is like that. Just like, hey, look, we're all good friends. We all hang out. We all share this hobby. Let's talk about it and explore it.
Yeah, and I love that because, it's just it can be so hard sometimes, especially and something that we're going to talk about in just a hot second. But like when there's like a deck that maybe is so strong and a lot of people are globbing onto it because it wins them the armory, and then you get a little disheartened. It's nice to actually not feel alone in that moment, because these card games, they're filled with variants, right? And you might be the 4-0 at Armory one week, and then the next week can't win a game for your life. In a lot of ways, especially if you're not in the upper echelon of players, if you're not the Brody Spurlocks. But we had Brody on the show. Brody's talked about I've had bad tournaments, and it's very hard to like mentally get out of that. But someone like him's like got the Tiger Woods mentality. I'm almost positive. But we aren't all blessed with the Tiger Woods mentality. So it's just like a really cool thing to see. And I was telling Chris before we recorded, like the 03 Dropcast is just like, oh, that's like the best freaking name in the world. I love it so much because I would hate to say that I'm an 03 drop kind of guy, because I'm not. I'm more of a 05, 07 because I kept playing because I was like, I'll win one,
Yep. No. I mean, we always laugh. Like we try to celebrate people saying like, hey, look, you got 03. Like we got stickers for you. We got, tokens, things like that. Like we want to celebrate that you came out, you stuck it through. You didn't leave the armory after, one loss, two loss, having a bad day. You sat there and played. I mean, I think last time I saw you in person was when we were at the Battle Hardened Philly. And it was one of those things. I was kind of in the lower tables playing my Trash Olympia deck, and we were just all kind of having a blast. And it got to the point where it was the last round, and I actually paired into another friend of the channel, Matt, sitting on stream, and he dropped, and I called the judge over, and I paired into him. I'm like, my opponent's not here. He's like, wait. And I'm like, no, I know where he is. He's not going to be here. I just want to let you know, because the second I can disqualify my friend and get the win is the second I'm doing it. And so the second is that I go running upstairs to like the bar, and I'm like, Matt, thanks for the win. He goes, no, if I'd known it was you, I would have stayed. But no, it's fun. I mean, it's just because you're 03, you're 04. As long as you're out there, you're having a good time. I'm a firm believer the folks in kind of the mid to bottom tables are the best people, just because we're all there. We're playing like, this is a pet deck. This is what I really had like fun doing. Like, this is like fire breathing Katsu or some weird combination where they're like, oh, look at this. And you go, oh, so much fun. That's really cool. So it's a great community. And, I really appreciate the liking the name, because we did think about it, for a while of, what makes us stand out.
I mean, it really does. And I love it. And I'm glad that it's, really taken hold and you guys are sticking with it, because that's like the biggest thing. Right. And I've talked about on the show before. It's like, there's like some crazy stat that like if you have a podcast that is releasing consistently, you're in like the top like 1% of all podcasts, because most stop right after a couple episodes or whatever. So you're already up in the upper echelons of podcasts. You're past 03 drop in podcasts. So like,
well, thank you.
It's very cool. Now, we got a lot to talk about, because it was like kind of a surprise spoiler week for Rosetta.
It was a busy week.
It was a very busy week. Because they had mentioned, we want you to open most of the cards at Tampa Bay in well, I guess right now it's a week away. And so I think a lot of us just assumed, there wouldn't be a spoiler season, and then we'll open a bunch of stuff and it'll be crazy. Maybe we'll know what the Blitz decks look like or whatever. But then, myself and some other people, luckily we got an email about, spoiling a card a week ago, and we had like a week to throw something together. Check out, everybody's, but also on this channel, there was one called Blossoming Decay that I spoiled. It was very fun. But, we have a lot to talk about with like what we think these heroes are going to look like without Majestics, because we didn't really see Majestics. We saw commons and rares. So that would be interesting to kind of tackle, because usually the Majestics end up shaping the deck a little bit more than you think. Now, before we do get to that though, I mentioned, the mentality of the 03 Dropcast is so good. in a time like now when there is one deck that seems to be the best deck in every format, Living Legends, CC, Blitz for sure, and then maybe, I mean, I don't know about, you would know about Commoner better than I don't know how Zen is in Commoner, but Zen is pretty brutal right now. And Brian Gottlieb, who, you know, is very, very open with people. He was very open when he came on this show. And he came out and said in a tweet, and he doesn't tweet that often anymore, saying, we know that Zen is a problem, or I don't know if problem was the verbiage, is the strongest deck in every format right now. We're aware. We're going to do something about it. Now, the next banned and suspended announcement is October 1st. Chris.
Yep.
First of all, what's your take on that? Do you think it was right to come out and say that? To kind of like say, hey, listen, we know?
I do think so. You know, especially understanding that he did come out before and say, hey, I'm going to be stepping back a little bit from Twitter. I can't address everything. I forget his exact words, but it was basically like, look, I don't want to say toxic because I know he didn't say that, but you know, the way I view it is like, you know, he's saying it's toxic. It's causing a bad mentality, bad state for the game. But so when I saw that tweet of him saying, we understand he's broken. And I believe they also put out, in a previous article that they released where they said, look, he was the last one that we developed because he kept breaking the game and, he's attacking for like 400 damage. So like they kept kind of developing him before they came up with this version that exists today. So I was very, very happy that they addressed it. Secondly, I used to be on the side of, this is terrible. How could they put this out? You know, I hope they fix it. They got to fix it. They got to fix it. Like wanting it faster for selfish reasons of, you know, I want my deck to do better. And this is hampering my deck and my enjoyment. But after just coming out of a skirmish season, or not season, but week 1 that I played in, Zen didn't win in ours, or at least the one that I did. He did win in another local one. But I'm now kind of taking this approach of viewing Zen as Starvo, where everybody that plays the game, they're going to sit there and say, you know, you came after the Zen era. You came after the Zen era, where it is just, you know, I want nothing more than to see the community find a way to LL Zen in this skirmish season. Because everybody's like, you know, well, he's close, or like, Starvo went fast. But I'm like, yeah, but Starvo had big wins, like big event wins. If Zen LLs, that means as a community, we've been kind of dinging him to 500 in 5-point increments, which in my mind is just amazing. Yeah. So I keep going like every week, like, okay, who played? Where did we get the wins? What's going on? Like, as a community, can we get him there? Because I think that would just be a cool flesh and blood history moment of saying they came out with this hero, they put him out, and as a community, we found a way to break him so much that we've taken him to a point limit that maybe they weren't anticipating. So to me, that's kind of cool. You know, I know not everybody views it that way, but I'm hoping that, you know, whatever changes they make still keeps him very viable in the LL scene and don't completely kill him to the point in CC where we go, you know, no ninjas are good to play. Like, I want a good ninja hero that keeps the meta fresh and keeps the meta alive and gives those players something to play. So I'm sure that they're going to come out with something. They did say, hey, it's not going to overshadow Rosetta. I fully believe that. And I'm excited to see how else they adjust Zen other than just saying, hey, we're cutting and banning everything.
Yeah, it's going to be really interesting. And I do think it's possible. I mean, it's got to be possible for Zen to just LL in Blitz, right? In the next couple of weeks. I mean, probably almost definite. I don't know.
Yeah, I think he got 205 the first week. So you figure, you know, if the events are going to start hampering down that like week after week, I'm hoping that we can just keep that like 200 range per week. That would be perfect.
I think it would be sweet if it was a nice 300 week the second week, and then like people could breathe a little bit for the rest of the skirmish season. But you know, it's tough, right? I understand that. So
I get it.
You know, I do wonder. CC is probably the biggest one on everybody's mind, and I mean, I don't know what they'll do with Living Legend because I mean, yes, it's very good in that format. I don't know if it's the best or anything like that. And there is ice available in that format as well. So I'm not really sure how much they want to touch that format, especially because they do think it's not the format of the future, but a format that's going to have a very healthy life in the game. And I just look at CC the most right now because I feel like we're not going to have to worry about it in Blitz, probably, for much longer. It sucks for people who don't like playing against it, and I understand that. It can be very frustrating when you just die on turn 0 or 2 or whatever like that. It happens. It's Blitz. It's a fast format. It's hard. And CC, though, because CC did get the bonds semi-ban. What do you hit next? You know, do they just nuke Traverse? I still think Kakura is still quite good, and you get access to things like pouncing links anyway. So, what are your thoughts? What would you ban to keep it viable without?
So,
yeah,
I don't know if I'd necessarily ban anything. I would almost errata a card. I think I would errata Art of War to say, you know, banish non-token card or something. So that way you basically can't get a Crouching Tiger in hand, use that as Art of War fodder, and then go off. You know, I think that would kind of be my first pick. You know, and I'm sure they've kind of looked at it or discussed that. As you said, I want to make sure he's viable in CC. I want to make sure that they don't overcorrect the problem to the point where you just can't play Zen and have a good time because they've nerfed or cut or banned a million cards. Similarly, I don't want them to ban a lot of cards that are going to negatively impact, let's say, Katsu, or, you know, Fi doesn't play as many, but something like that. Like, I mean, they already got rid of some of the bonds out of the Katsu game plan, which kind of hurts. So to find a way to balance him without maybe doing something with the boots or Art of War is a little tough. I mean, do you errata him and just say, hey, look, he has less health? I don't know. But Art of War would be probably my number one focus on testing that. And then from there, determining, you know, what else needs to change without impacting the rest of the ninja class as a whole.
Yeah, that's a tough thing because, you know, the bonds thing was unprecedented, right? Set precedent for, you know, what they could potentially do. I know they don't want to do it, right? They made that kind of clear. It's like, we don't want to have to do this all the time, right? Understandably. You want your cards to be perfectly fine all the time. It's not going to happen all the time, and that's just how it is. But do you start wondering if they are like, well, we already did something crazy unprecedented for Zen. Do you say, can we ban Art of War just for Zen? Right? Because that's a tough thing, because if you ban Art of War outright, you know, League of Leviathan is up in arms, right? Because
exactly.
I know that the deck right now doesn't play Art of War, but it historically has almost always played Art of War. So, and that's a really good card in Leviathan, but not broken. It's always broken in these super go wide decks where you can give +1 to all your little go again things. And, you know, that's going to be tough. I mean, I don't know. Listen, I just wanted to ask you, and man, I do not envy LSS right now because
I'm glad I don't have that job. First, anybody that has a game like this, the team that is responsible for balancing and testing and playtesting cards, I give them full credit in all the world, because I can't imagine how frustrating it would be to say, I've spent hundreds of hours, played thousands of games on this hero, we think we got it done, and then, you know, some schmuck like myself is like, hey, I'm going to put this combo together, and it completely breaks all my hard work. Like, there has to be something so tough about that type of job that everybody that signs up and does it, I mean, full support. I will never speak poorly of them, because that has to be a very, very difficult thing to do.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I would love to do the job, to be honest, but I just know there would be something broken almost every other week that I create, because I'm like, well, this just seems cool. What? It can't go wrong. And then it's just...
Riptide needs 70 health. I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah, wait, it's like, oh, it needs like a something to recur legendary traps on a stick. I mean, that just seems great. But yeah. So it'll be interesting to see what they do. I guess October 1st will be when we find out, unless they do something sooner, which I doubt they will. That seems like a little. I mean, it would be too crazy. It would be just in time for Rosetta to kind of really be in the meta, I believe. So we'll see. So let's move on. Well, let's see how Zen is, in your opinion, in terms of MST. I want to know your fresh faves from Part the Misfail, Chris.
Yeah, sure. So, I mean, Part the Misfail for me personally was a very interesting set because it was one of the first ones where there was a clear class that I liked, and everything else I was happy to throw by the wayside. I am, not a ninja main by any means. I am not an illusionist main. I love the assassin class. I mean, it is to me just like warrior, where it's like, hey, look, we got lots of like weird surprise things coming. And the second I saw Mask of Recurring Nightmares, I was blown away. Like this whole concept of just, if I got a cheat, I'm just messing with your hand and you're getting rid of stuff. And even new as a whole of just saying, I get to play all of your cards out of your deck and kind of have this mill mechanic, but it's not really a mill where you can sit there and look and vanish if it's a blue. It's very cool to me. So it's hard to pick any specific assassin card, but just a Nick and I think Mask of Recurring Nightmares are probably 1 and 2 for me. Just turning a 1 attack to a 6 attack for 0 cost. Great. Love it. Keep going.
It's so good. So, I mean, obviously favorite hero is new, right?
Very much so.
No contest. I mean, I knew you're a big Dorinthia guy, so like, it's just like, oh, let's it gave new or like a route. So like,
yeah.
So you're like, oh, that's cool.
I mean, any class that you can say this is my damage and then be like, no, I'm just kidding. Here's the real damage number is fun to me. I mean, I'm trying to learn Wizard just for that reason. But the Assassin, I think, does what Dory does in a very similar fashion, where it's just, whether it's Azuri saying, hey, I'm just coming in with this one little isolate. Oh, surprise, it's a CNC. Or, oh, surprise, it's just a Nick. Or Arachne saying, oh, surprise, I actually won a game. I don't know what it is, but it's a real fun class to play.
It really is. And I mean, new is certainly the most powerful. And like, it's one of those things where Zen goes away. Is new the best? I don't think so, because I think just new is really good into Zen, and then that just like happens to be the balance in the CC meta. So we'll see. So, all right, favorite hero, new. Favorite weapon, the Mistblade, I'm assuming.
Yeah, I mean, I think Mistblade just takes it. Just being able to threaten to go again on a blue, getting a little bit of a buff. Yeah, it's great. It's great.
And equipment, Mask of Recurring Nightmares is the coolest. Like,
I mean, oh yeah, especially when we see like the extended art and there's like the hidden hands and all. Perfect, absolute perfection.
And just a Nick. I mean, that card's seeing play in all the assassins now. I mean, so cool.
It's a great. I mean, I just on Skirmish last weekend, I was running ASC, Arachne Solitary, and just a Nick won me, I think, 1 or 2 games, both my games, I believe. That and Flick Knives. So it's a fun card. It doesn't sit there and say, hey, look, it has to stay 1, and if you buff more. So anything you can do to just quickly buff things and quickly sneak in damage is always fun. Always fun.
Yeah. I mean, you did play a lot of Dorinthia, so
there's a video on the O3 coming out with a budget Dory deck being filmed right now. So
very, very nice.
There's all kinds of Dory content for me.
Now, this is a new question we've been asking folks on the podcast, is which class and talent would you be?
Okay, so if we're talking true life, as much as I'd like to say I'm a warrior, I'm not a fighter. I will say, if I had to be anything, based on kind of what I do for a real life job and all that post outside of Flesh and Blood, I would say I am a light merchant.
Oh.
I would say I'm light merchant. I mean, merchant class is fun. I mean, we all sit here and collect cards and do all that kind of fun stuff. So being able to kind of like haggle and make deals. I do pricing in my, real world life. I'm a pricing manager. So doing that, and then light, I like to assume I'm a good guy. I'm normally pretty easy to get with, I'm not lightning fast, not not particularly strong for Earth or anything like that, and I don't want to freeze anybody out. So, light, I think it's pretty good, until we find out, like, in Monarch, Dawn to Dusk 3 years from now or whatever, that, like, oh, Solana's terrible, nobody likes it, then I'm going to feel real bad for this answer. But, until then, I'm okay.
I think Solana can be evil and light still be good. I think both can be true, because I can't help but look at Bolton and be like, that is a good guy right there.
It's hard to hate Bolton.
It's so hard.
Bolton is like the one that I'm like, I just want like a TMZ page to come out and be like, Bolton scandal.
Oh no.
there's no, so many hearts would break. Poor Josh Lau would just be like, no.
At least I still have Dory. No, she was involved. No, yeah. Prism's evil though. No,
100%. I mean, you can't control that many angels and be a good person.
So true. But it's a great answer. Light Merchant, I like that for you. And I feel like I asked the question a lot. A lot of people they always stick to the class, never get a good talent in there. It's like, I don't know what talent I'd be, but light, true blue right there.
Talents are tough, man. Talents are tough.
It's tough. I mean, I always wanted to do a series where it was along the lines of the 03 Dropcast, where it was like the non-talented heroes or whatever. It's like, we don't have any talent. Look at us, we suck. Whatever. That was just an idea that was in my head for 5 seconds and just returned now when we're talking. So. That's how
now I have this image in my head of all of them sitting around like a support group kind of circle, being like, Bolton took all the light from me.
Yeah, Riptide's like, I kind of have a talent, but no. Now, spoilers were this week, and we saw a lot of commons and rares, and maybe 1 or 2 majestics. The fancier cards are being reserved for Tampa, as we said a little bit earlier. And I felt like we should kind of give some initial impressions here on what we saw. First of all, does this week have you hyped for Rosetta?
It very much does. So I've been kind of dreading the All Arcane set for a long time. Whenever this was announced, I said, okay, I'm going to start picking up Kano, start learning Kano. Fell in love with Blaze. Very bad wizard player, but I get it now. And I think what was the most aha moment for me this week is, outside of the spoilers, which are fun and you get to see kind of what's going on, is LSS put out those videos of Blitz deck versus Blitz deck. And it wasn't just like, oh, we're just going to do just Florian and just Aurora. It's, kind of every possible matchup they've looked at. And I think that's what's gotten me the most excited, because all of the hypothesizing about how these heroes should be played, and I think we all had a good idea, finally came to fruition. We got to see a whole bunch of cards. I think somebody pointed out online that we saw that there's more of the mini tokens coming in the set, which was really cool. So that I think was like, this is great. I mean, seeing how those are played, seeing the meld cards in action, I think that got me the most hyped, of saying it's on the horizon. This looks neat. They all seem to play very differently from any hero that exists. It was, I think, just a good past 24, 48 hours here, in my opinion.
Yeah, absolutely. And to be honest, as a limited junkie, this week was very exciting because, well, if there's one thing that happens in limited is you play a lot of commons and rares. And the Blitz decks are also great ways to show you how perhaps a pretty good limited deck will play, and those videos were excellent for that. So I thought this was so exciting to kind of just see the bones, the bread and butter of these heroes, right? And just see how they're going to work at their lowest level. And then when we get to see these crazy cards get opened in Tampa Bay in a week, our minds get to run wild again. Because they're going to run wild for the next week, being like we're going to talk about Osilia, but how does Osilia work? How is this supposed to be a deck in CC? Because that's the one thing I've noticed. A lot of CC heads are like, how is this going to be good enough? and like the answer is gonna be in the majestic slot and the legendaries, of course.
Yeah.
And that's so exciting. That's just I think it's cool. Other people was like, I want it now, which I get. I understand that. I'm the same way sometimes.
Yeah, I mean, I'm kind of in the camp that, like you, I went in there saying, okay, we're going to see nothing. Tampa Bay is just going to be like people left and right screaming, look at this cool card, look at this cool card. But as the numbers start flowing in, and I just pulled up Fabry just to double check, we're only really missing about 50 cards of the set. And most of them are the legendaries, the fabled, and, you know, about 20 majestics. The rares, the commons, I think those are all Lucilia focused, and at time of recording, they'll probably be out already, but we don't currently know them, you and I. So I'm excited to see all that. I think it'll be enough for the hardcore, like, cream of the crop players to be able to really start making game plans about what they want to do with sealed. But for me, I'm really excited about whenever I'm in Tampa here next week, just to, like, listen to somebody down the table just like stand up and be like, oh my god, look at this legendary, and like everybody just flock and be like, wait, what is it, what's going on, what does it do? And then start putting those pieces together kind of like as a community of, oh my god, you pair this with this card from another set and it's a great combo, or oh my god, think about this interaction. Like, that's going to be really cool to me to see how does everybody else view that and talk about it in real time versus just little LGSs or playtest groups as they try to break it apart individually. So I'm really, really excited for that. I hope that they do this for every set of saying, hey, look, we're going to give you the bread and butter cards, but we're going to keep the big surprises. We're going to keep, you know, the big twists for in person or for something for like the community to get excited and get behind as a whole.
Yeah, it is going to be sweet, and that's awesome that you're going to be at Tampa. I'll be there too. We're going to have to freaking hang out and hopefully, you know, both open awesome stuff. But yeah, it's just super exciting. But let's talk about each hero though, right?
Sure.
I want to talk about we'll talk about the Earth heroes first. Those are the ones I'm more excited about. You know, that kind of play style plays to what I like to do. Decomposing is awesome, and let's talk about Verdance, which I was calling Verdance until I started watching the Blitz decks things, and I was like, you know what, Verdance makes way more sense.
That sounds a little better.
It sounds a little bit better, but you know that's okay. You know, we all make mistakes, folks. But so some cards that stick out to me for Verdance. Well, first of all, my spoiler card, Blossom and Decay, right?
Yep.
Decompose. So for those who don't know, decompose is when this attacks or does or like is played, depending on the card. You may banish 2 Earth cards and an action card from your graveyard. If you do gain a life or do something else, Blossom and Decay is gain a life, right? So Verdance is the hero that cares about gaining life once her hero ability is on, which needs 4 Earth cards or 8 Earth cards.
Yep.
4 or 8.
4 for young, 8 for adult. Yeah.
And then whenever she gains a life, you deal 1 arcane damage. So I start looking at cards like this. You start letting the mind run a little bit about how this deck is going to play, because she's a wizard, right?
Yep.
But you know, looks like she wants to play attacks, which I think is totally fine. Now, you know, if I might get up on a pedestal, not pedestal, what do you call it? Soapbox. I'm soapboxing right now.
I'll put you on a pedestal. You're okay.
I'm getting on a soapbox. And, you know, I'm calling out one specific creator because I do like him quite a bit. Breezy out on there on Twitter. Breezy says, oh, there's 3 Rune Blades in this set, saying Verdance is a Rune Blade. Listen, I told Breezy, let's break down the word Rune Blade. She can't play a blade. I mean, someone did point out she could play Talishar. Get that out of here. That's gone after 3 counters or whatever. You know, wizards can attack too, but I understand where they're coming from when they say that. But what are your thoughts here? Is she the next super grindy defensive deck?
So Verdance is the hero that I am the most excited for. You know, I keep telling people I want somebody to make hot to go again sleeves for Chappelle Roan or whatever. The big HOTTOGO again. But like, it's one of those things that, as much as I hate to say it, I think she's the weakest of the 4.
Interesting.
And please, I'm hoping somebody smarter and better than me can prove me wrong on this. Because if she is the best deck, I will be the happiest person in all of the Flesh and Blood community. Because I love everything about this. Like I love, like you said, the decompose mechanic is super cool. How quickly can I get this, into my graveyard so I can start like really doing what my deck wants to do. I keep sitting there saying like, are the two Earth Heroes the answer to new if new becomes a problem? Because it's basically saying new attacks, I throw my entire hand in front of you, let you banish everything. There's 4 Earth cards right there. If I got a good hand, I can do that. So it's one of those things of saying, if she is good, the style of game that I would love to play is kind of like a mid to late game kind of gameplay where it's, okay, tick me down. Okay, now I'm building my health back up and pinging you and pinging you and pinging you. How are you going to deal with that? So I think that right now she's going to be the hardest to build and get right. Especially because if Acilio is lower health, I think he's going to be busted in all kinds of different ways as we see more cards. But I'm very, very much excited for Verdance. I want to play her. I'm probably going to force her at the premiere in Tampa, regardless of what I open. Just because it seems like such a cool style if you can make it work. If you can get, your hero ability turned on and then just start gaining life and pinging people, lots of fun. A+ for me.
Yeah, so funny enough, I do think she's going to be the business in limited. I mean, life gain is very good when you do not have a lot of it, right? However, you got to get her turned on to her ability. So it's going to be really interesting.
Especially there's no AB. I mean, there's a little bit of like, ways to prevent damage. And there's, what is it? Arcane Shelter, I believe is the new mechanic.
Yep.
But there's no consistent AB like Nalrune where you can just say, I'm just going to forever pitch and deal with this one arcane that you're throwing at me with health gain. So I agree that I think you can build probably a pretty good limited deck with her, with the right cards.
Yeah. And I look to the Blitz deck videos that they're kind of saying, listen, the whole game plan here is, it's a slow build. And then once you get to the point that you can kind of like start getting a lot of value, you start doing it. So I think that she definitely feels like Icelander, but take away ice and give her life gain, which is cool. I think actually I prefer that. I prefer to play against it, that's for sure. And, listen,
good old Grasslander, that's all.
Yeah, Grasslander, that's great. Buy your Poison the Wells now, folks. But like, I think of Bullander, right? Like, so you got like Finals Fighting Spirit, which is just like insane in this deck, and it's also a common now. For the common
Icelander and Commoner is going to be a lot of fun.
So it's going to be quite the interesting deck. I'm excited to see the card that I look at that makes me the most excited for both her and Florian is Rootbound Carapace. This is the Earth defense reaction. 0 at the red, blocks 3 and has Decompose. And if you do the Decompose, it gets +1 defense. So it's a 0-for-4 block that helps you get to what you want to do in the game, which is good in both. And I think that's a good time to go over the Florian because Florian is a grindy hero too. And yeah.
I think the Earth Heroes as a whole being kind of grindy is real nice, and I'm hoping it's a good balance. Florian is one of those heroes that if you can get a way to just constantly make tokens or constantly just get these rune chants going and get that like little like rune chant machine gun going off like ping 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 ping, that's gonna be a blast. But when you sit there and say like the Earth heroes are kind of the ones that you like, are you more Florian focused?
So funny enough, Chris, I was all in on Florian when I saw the young hero. I was like, I love the vibe. He's holding up that sword. I love that I need to get stuff into my banish zone. Goes back to my Leviathan days. And I did play Chain when I first played the game. So like it feels like very nostalgic, but also very new at the same time. So I got very excited for that. And I saw Verdance and I was like, whatever, life gain. And then I watched like the Blitz deck videos and I was like, Oh, Verdance is really cool.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's going to be a lot of fun, too. I'm still probably going to be playing Florian because when I saw for the first time in those videos when he created an extra token, I was like, oh, yeah. I mean, like, you take it for granted how good Mordred is just being on your hero ability. It's pretty insane.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, when you look at things like that, too, and you look at, like, what is it? It's the meld card. I think it's like Arcane Seeds, where it's like, hey, create a rune chant, create a rune chant. When you get Florian Alon, that's basically saying, create 4 rune chants for 0. Just have fun. You know, and I love that idea of it is, how do I get these cards that are going to be really, really great late game into like a second rotation if you draw them early? Because you don't want to be blocking with that. You don't want to be throwing it away. You want to sit there and say, okay, give me the trash earth cards that I can quickly banish, or like you said, the ones that can decompose, or the essential to sink below of the set. How do I get those out fast so I can have all these on the back end? So it's I think the people that like the puzzles and the more of like the combo decks and the pitch decking, I think they're gonna love Florian. I think he is going to be a powerhouse in the right hands of the people that know their deck inside and out. They know how to pitch deck. They know how to set up for a mid to late game. As long as you can survive long enough to get that hero power on, I think you could be a monster with this hero easily.
Yeah, and I think We Make Best did a video about, a while ago before we saw a lot of the cards, about how Florian can be the OTK Viserai, like reborn, right? So like, and we all still play like Talishar and run into that Viserai. You're like, oh, they're gonna be running go again stuff, and then they just like they're playing like the Scepter, and you're like, oh no, they're gonna build up 30 rune chants. And Florian has insane potential here, even with his specialization Germinate, which just seems like crazy. For those who don't know, it's a blue. This is a Majestic. We saw this pretty early on. Earth Runeblade action, 3 block. XX is the cost. Create a rune chant or embodiment of Earth token. Repeat this process X more times, and it also says gain X plus 1 life. I mean, that's setting up for the biggest like kill I've ever seen, and giving you life.
Yeah, I mean, you figure you pitch 6 to pay for this, making X3. 4, gaining 4 life at the end, that's 10% of your life in CC. Like, that's just basically saying, you thought you had me. Now you're going to have to come in with a whole nother attack that's basically unblocked to basically get me back to where I was. It almost feels like it didn't even need to be a Florian specialization. I mean, Verdance would love a card like this too. So I'm hoping that these specializations aren't too short printed. I'm hoping they're easy to obtain, because I think missing cards like this in the deck as you start to build it out would be real sad. So I'm hoping we see a lot of cool plays in Tampa. I'm hoping a couple people pull this and we get to like really see it go off, and have its full potential. But I'm really into these Earth heroes. I'm not gonna lie, I like them a lot.
Yeah, and to be honest, like, I think people were a little bit taken aback by Rotwood Reaper, the sword, but it can be a romping club pretty often, right? Romping club is still one of the best stats in the game for a weapon, and to give it to a Runeblade, whatever.
I'm convinced Runeblades, like all the people that play Runeblades, they're too used to being able to do 2 and 2 for 1. Like now we're bringing them just on the field with the rest of us that have been toiling around with like, oh, I got to pay 2 to swing 3, or pay like 1 to swing 0. Like this is a pretty balanced with everything else out there weapon. Like nothing special, but token rarity. I got it. It's not Rosetta Thorn. Perfect. I'm happy with this.
And it's beautiful. Check out the art for Rotwood Reaper, people. It's so good. Now let's move over to Lightning, because we've had a taste of Lightning for a hot minute with Aurora, right? We saw Aurora in the First Strike decks, which actually I played for the first time tonight with my fiance. It was very fun. I think that those are well designed and perfect for teaching people. Um, what are your thoughts on Aurora? Because we've we have seen the power of the Go Wide Runeblade in the past, and this
Sure.
is a Go Wide Runeblade.
Yeah, she's very go wide. I think it's going to be a hero that is going to be potentially misplayed by many, only because her ability does cost 2.
Mm-hmm.
So she seems very focused around this ability. So my fear is you're going to get a lot of people that go, "Oh, I can go wide," and they have this amazing, great turn, but they don't save the resources to necessarily activate the ability for a good next turn.
Mm-hmm.
And if they draw into something with no lightning instance or don't find a way to, have a good follow up, they just may be like, "Well, I got a bad draw. I just attack for 4, I guess, and end." It's something that I think you're going to want people that are really, really good at managing resources, really good at deck building to know what's coming in. Like I said, we just recorded our episode tonight, Brace and I, and we talked a little bit about something like Shock Charmers. Like, do you invest in a card like Shock Charmers for her right now? With the assumption that we have lightning arms, the chance of them printing another set of lightning arms is probably pretty low. So do you sit there and have that as a back end option for late game? So early game, you're using your 2 resources to, consistently get your go again, get your embodiments going and kind of keeping that engine moving. But then late game, whenever they say, "Hey, if I block this and go to 1, I take enough just to put me down at 1. Now it's a flick knives, but at 2 cost instead of a cost of a dagger." So I'm interested in her. I think that she's going to be very good, very strong go wide potential. But I think you're going to really, really have to be careful about that resource management to get the full utility out of her.
Yeah, absolutely. And, this is another hero that kind of harkens back to me, in my mind, to the other side of Chain. Because Chain was the sequencing deck, right? It was so important that you sequence correctly. And this deck will fall apart, like you said, if you don't sequence correctly. You don't have the resources. You didn't think about next turn. So I think very, very kind of like we'll have simple cards that you just gotta make them work together, which is very exciting and opens up a lot of stuff for like. I don't know if this is gonna be the Channel Thunderstep deck. Maybe it's a Cilio. I don't know. That would be cool, but I don't think we're gonna see Channel Thunderstep.
This is gonna be the Corsham deck, right? Right.
This is the Corsham deck. Finally, we got the Corsham deck, folks. But I'm very interested to see, like, will she feel unique, right? And I think that's the toughest thing to be able to tell right now for me, because Runeblade's done this before, right?
Yeah.
Will this feel unique? Now, playing the First Strike deck today, it did feel a lot more unique. And to be honest, I'm going to go ahead and say it. I love the weapon Starfall. So elegantly designed, I think.
Yeah.
A 1-for-2 go again if you did something. How awesome is that? And just like, it just fits right into what she wants to do. And very exciting. Now, Chris, the biggest question that we might even have somewhat of an answer to right now as we're recording. We're recording pretty late because Chris is the best.
Thank you.
Oscillio. OSCILIO. You can take me hot to go. Oscillio is is a big question mark, right? Because a lot of these commons and rares are zaps, right? And with zaps with upside, with surge abilities, but clearly Oscillio cares about sigils, and we did see his specialization, which on its face is not that strong, but it has to be very strong. What are your thoughts?
Yeah. So I think if you like the puzzle aspect of Kano, of how do I take this 4-card hand and maximize the damage at very quick instant speed, you're good. So what's interesting about his weapon is the fact of saying, hey, if you control a sigil, it gets, it costs 1 less. and then amp X for however many lightning cards you played. I believe that's what it says. This is going to be one of those things of saying, okay, I got things like Sigil of Conductivity. That's an instant speed. If I play this out and then I sit there and I maintain priority, or like I let that resolve, then I may like play something, maintain or hold priority, play X, Y, and Z following it, then activate my my wand, my magic electric
Volzar.
wand. Yeah, and sit there and say, now I can do this, this, and this. Oh, and by the way, now I have a card left in my hand. I discard that, draw a card. Maybe I luck into exactly what I want. I think it's great. So, I mean, he is going to be a puzzle. I think he's going to be very, very hard to build in Limited. Whereas, like where you said, hey, is Aurora going to feel unique compared to other Rune Blades? I think in Limited, absolutely. I think she's going to be real different, real fun to play. I think Acilio is going to be real hard in the Limited scene, but I think he has a lot of potential in the constructed scene, only because you have things that are like, well, let's talk like what, Kindle, I believe. So if there's a way you can sit there and say, I'm going to discard a card to draw a card, I'm going to pay the discard to activate Acilio, have no cards in hand, Kindle, draw a card from that, then draw a card from my Acilio, and kind of play that out, I think there's going to be a lot of fun there. I've heard people already start panicking based on some of the cards that they're seeing about like, oh my god, we need to start worrying about Aether Wildfire. I'm just like Zen in the state of, heck no, let it happen and let Kano burn down CC and just ascend to glory. But it's one of those things that I think you're going to have a lot of people that are just like when you play Kano in, an event where like you go, okay, your turn, and they sit there and they just stare at their cards for like 10 minutes, and you watch them do the math in their head, like you smell the smoke and all that kind of stuff coming off of them, going like, okay, I got it. And then they just play this perfect masterpiece in front of you of, if I do everything in this order with these sigils, bam, 20 damage, you're done. So yeah, I mean, I think we still have a lot to see with him, but I'm very excited, and I think he's going to hold a very, very specific spot in the meta where he is just going to completely pop off or just die on the table because you just got bad combos, bad hand combinations. So I'm excited to see what we come. Plus, draw a card is just always good. Any card that says draw a card on it, and whatever the conditions are to get it, it's a good card.
Yeah, there's something about Acilio, and we haven't seen it yet, that I'm terrified, but also excited, because I do think the idea of like doing the wizard thing differently is so refreshing. So I'm hoping it's very, very cool. I hope it's not busted, right? Nobody wants another busted wizard, but we want it to be cool and strong enough that people can play it and it not just be annoying, right? I think it needs to be interactive. Not to say Kano's annoying to all the Kano players out there, but you guys know what I mean. So, but I don't know. It's all exciting, man. But that's all we've seen, and I can't wait to see you in Tampa. First of all,
we'll have a good time. I'm happy to hear that you're going to be there. I mean, we got I think almost all of the Pittsburgh crew, not all of us, but a good handful of us are going to be down there. I mean, many of us are bringing our significant others. So, like, if you see me disappear for half a day, it's because I promised my wife we would go to, what's it called? Busch Gardens. They started their Halloween thing that weekend. So we're going to go up there, do a good time. But yeah, I mean, it'll be a lot of fun, I think, in Tampa. I mean, I'll definitely be coming to you between rounds being like, okay, Tommy, what you get? What you pull? Like, is Florian as good as we thought he is? Like, all of a sudden we're just watching you being like, no, I'm full in on Acilio. This is what I'm doing. This card pull. Like, I nuked my opponent from orbit, like, last turn. Like, it's gonna be real exciting. It's gonna be I think I'm more excited for this set and this premiere than I probably was for any of the other two, like the heavy hitters or Mist. I think this has the most potential to shake up the game, especially on the limited scene for limited players, because again, with no real AB and just Arcane Shelter, you may just get a turn where you can essentially, quote unquote, Kano, just kill somebody real quick with Acilio, just because they don't have any way to stop it. I mean, it's a very unique set. I think it's going to be one of the harder ones for new players to jump on board. Like, I think Mist was very hard too, but I'm thinking that at least because they have the heroes like Aurora and people like that are a little more straightforward.
Mm-hmm.
I think they're still leaving that door open for people, which is really smart and really wise.
Absolutely, and it has flavor going for it. Also, Return to Aria. So a lot of players got into the game around Tales of Aria. So maybe they come crawling back. So we'll welcome them with open arms, of course.
So I got a question for you, Mr. Host.
Oh,
while we're talking about Aria and the set and what you want to see come, what do you think the Fabled does? Now that we've seen like decompose mechanic, we've seen lightning, we've seen all this kind of stuff.
Geez. So that's kind of interesting because we did get Corsham in Tales of Aria. It's been a minute since we had a gem. We had Death Match Arena, and then we had Mist Hollow Gully. Is that what it was called?
I think it was Mastercog the last quote unquote gem that we had.
Yeah, Mastercog was the last quote unquote gem. We've already had a Runeblade gem, so I don't know if we're gonna get that. I think it's got to be another landmark. I do think that these are they are really good for the game. I think long term, I think they're going to be very, very cool to just have a lot of them. I'm not going to open it anyway because I never opened a Fable. So I'm going to say it's going to be a new landmark.
Yeah.
Do you think that?
I'm in a very similar boat. I think if keeping of this set and keeping the lore and everything that they put out, I would love for it to be like we have Corsham right now with Arya. I would love to see Rotwood be the the landmark of just being like, go to Rotwood, like what, and like how Corsham's like, oh, at dawn, do this. Like I just want to be like, at dusk, here's what happens. like fully lean into the decompose, the rotting of everything, and just go hard with a landmark or something that stays in the arena.
Oh, I love it. I hope that too. That seems so cool. So maybe it just decomposes every turn or something like that. That would be. I mean, that'd probably be too good.
Decompose each player's here like graveyard just consistently. That'd be great.
That'd be sick. Now, since this was a last minute addition to the show, we don't have a lot of listener questions because they were for another person, and hopefully when they return, we'll ask them to that person. But Capolo did ask a question that was pretty generic, so I figured I'd ask it. And Capolo asked, what do you think would be the most powerful combination of two classes and one talent? Currently, I guess it is Draconic Wizard Warrior. So what would be the most powerful?
I mean, God, two classes and a talent. I would probably say Ice, Runeblade. I think Ice Wizard was so good. I think you throw Ice Runeblade Wizard together and you basically just give Icelander a sword. I mean, that would be scary. Like, if I can come in with rune chants and ping you for big damage and freeze you out so you can't do anything. So every turn you're pitching away cards to either frostbite just to do anything or basically AB, in increments of 1. I think that's pretty gross. I think that's very gross.
That would be gross. I want to answer this one too because this is actually a pretty good question, Capolo. Thank you for asking. I think, I gotta say Brute is one of them. Brute Wizard. Intimidate them and then destroy their hand. So Brute Ice Wizard would be pretty insane. So you can like totally decimate their whole hand with stuff. I don't know. I just want to intimidate with another hero.
I've been saying for a long time I want a Brute Warrior. Like give me the Brute King. And just be like, I'm going to intimidate. I'm going to swing. You're like, oh, and they have one card. I'll block with it. Now I get to come in with some reprise and like do like pummel with reprise. Like, Brute Warrior would be so much fun. I think that'd be the most fun.
That'd be cool. And we already have hybrid cards for it. So
yeah, like right in there. Just make Rhinar like whenever Rhinar LLs one day, just come back with like Rhinar King of the Wilds or like Warrior of the Wilds, and then bam. We're there.
Man. I would love that. Well, Chris, this was an awesome episode. Thank you so much for coming on. You're the man. You are the man.
Well,
I can't wait to get the rest of the 03 Dropcast guys on. Can you please plug everything? I know we talked about it, but let people know where they can find you. And
yeah, sure. So, yeah, again, 03 Dropcast. We are one of the newer podcasts on the scene. We've only been going for a couple months now, but we would appreciate if anybody comes by, listens to the show, let us know what they like, what they don't like. Again, we got deck techs, we got tier lists because everybody loves tier lists. We also got a podcast on Spotify, or the video version is on YouTube. Best way to follow us would be following us on Twitter at 03 Dropcast. It's O_3_ because Twitter fun. You can find us there. There's a Discord community we just launched. We're starting to build that up so people can provide suggestions, comments, questions, what they want to see more from us. If you want to follow me at Smithel Gaming on Twitter, we'll have all the links there. But again, YouTube, 03 Dropcast. Come say hi. Tell us how much you love Armani pizza, and we'd love to have you there. And Tommy, again, thanks for having us. I'm very honored and happy that you let me fill in here last minute. It's always a pleasure.
Dude, I mean, it was a godsend, and it was from a bud too. Oh, it was like the stars aligned. It was wonderful. Thank you so much. Now, the real question is, in Tampa, if I go 03, do I get to be on your podcast?
I promise you, in Tampa, if you go 03, we will have you on the week after to tell us about it, and we will have stickers. I will give you play mats. Anything you need to make that 03 sting a little less. I got you, buddy.
I'm doing it on purpose now, buddy. Or at least I'll be telling you that. It was on purpose. You all can continue to find me on Twitter at freshbudspod. Check out the YouTube, like, comment, subscribe, rate on Spotify, do all that stuff. Check out the Buds Discord. And then my other podcast, Fresh Juice, that I do with my cousin Maddie. We talk about indie video games. Check that out as well. And finally, Smithel, I love to talk about food. Is there any food you want to shout out right now?
And I'll tell you what, for Father's Day this year, my wife got me one of those big smokers, the big 4 foot, 5 foot tall ones. And I've been making nothing but briskets and pulled pork and ribs and all kinds of stuff. So I am all for a good 22-hour slow cooked brisket. Oh, perfect. Absolute perfect.
You go out there, you crack a beer, you just chill, you check out the spoilers as they're coming in. You're like, life's good. Life's good. I'm gonna eat this brisket later. It sounds very good. That's gonna do it, folks. We don't have time for Charmer, but we'll get to him eventually. Thank you all so much, and please stay fresh.